Talk about a guy that's a complete opposite of Will Campbell from everything that we just described. Kelvin Banks from Texas, 6'4", 324 pounds. Dude can move, man. And he's got a very thick lower half. We're going to talk a little bit about how he does shine in the run game. Some could argue that maybe he is better off playing guard in the NFL. Could totally see that. Could maybe shine a little bit better as a right tackle because he's a really good run blocker. Before we get into the strengths weaknesses aspect, what notes did you have on him background wise?
Well, I said that Will Campbell and him kind of have very similar backgrounds is because they're both in-state guys that went to the premier program in their state. So he's a Humble, Texas. That's the hometown. He went to Summer Creek 2022 class, the same as Will Campbell. He was considered as a recruit on the On3 industry ranking as a 5-star, the number 22 overall player, and the number 2 off. Actually, wait, is that wrong? Oh, yeah, here it is. Sorry. Number 22 overall player, number 2 player, 2 offensive tackle in the 2022 class. He was also ranked as a 5-star by both On3 and 247 Sports. On3, their regular ranking, not industry ranking. He was rated as the number 6 overall player, number 1 offensive tackle in his class, and the number 1 player in the state of Texas. So he was able to obviously transition that into a very successful season so far, career so far, Joe. He was a freshman All-American, just like Will Campbell. He was also a first-team All-Conference this past year, just like Will Campbell. And so it's a pretty traditional background, man. He started every single game for the Longhorns, and also as a freshman in 2022, he went through his growing pains, as did the entire Texas offensive line that was super young in 2022. They got beat up a little bit, but I think that it was better for them, came out on the other side, and obviously we're talking about a kid that is now projected by a lot of people to be a first-round selection in the 2025 NFL draft potentially. And physical culture and sports major, whatever the heck that is, right? So, yeah, your old
that's a football degree.
Yes.
Football degree right there. Kelvin Banks, though, has the one thing that I love with offensive linemen, reason why I love J.C. Latham. He's got a big ass. He's got a really, really big ass, and that shows up in the run game. He's got very quick feet. I think for his size, for being 330 pounds, I think he can get upfield in a hurry. I think he gets to the second level very well. I love the angles and the body placement that he plays with in the run game, and he gets really good leg churn. He's able to just like really drive guys out, especially when he's leading in like some zone plays. Just all the aspects of the run game for me really, really shines. In pass protection, he is a fluid mover, but there's certainly a lot that needs to get worked on. We'll get to the weaknesses aspect there, but the just generally shines as a good athlete playing that tackle spot for Texas in pass protection. But I think that just the best way to describe Banks, good athlete, is a bit raw and is improving as time has gone on.
The biggest positive and the biggest negative to Kelvin Banks. You ready, Joe? Because we'll get into the negatives a lot more specifically here. But both biggest positive and negative is that he relies on his overall physical talents all the time. And that is a positive because my guy has good foot quickness for NFL standards. My guy redirects well. My guy is physically dense and very strong. My comparison for him, Laramie Tunsil. That's who he reminds me of. Now, Laramie, his last year at Ole Miss was fantastic. Like, he had really jumped. He was a really good player for Ole Miss his first 2 years, but his last year at Ole Miss, he became a top 10 potential NFL draft prospect, if not for the gas mask, right? Like, he would have been that type of player. Kelvin Banks has that type of upside to him as well. I think that he could take a giant jump as a junior because he has everything that you need. He's not the tallest guy of all time, but I think that his arm length is going to be plus for NFL standards when he gets to the measurement side of things. I think he plays with good length as well. He really is aggressive to be able to gain extension both in the run and pass game. He really works to kind of get to that point. My favorite thing about him, just talking specifically about the run game, and I'll get into the pass game a little bit. Run game, Joe, him on the backside of zone runs, whether it's outside or inside zone, boy, he can really, one, work laterally, two, work to gain proper body positioning. It's a skill, man. Working on the backside of zone is not the easiest thing of all time. You need to have a guy that, one, understands angles, and two, has the necessary athleticism and explosiveness to get himself into good body positioning. So you see that stuff. There's finishing ability. I saw in the Washington game, Braylon Trice ate Christian Jones's lunch, dude. Took his lunch money. But every time that Braylon Trice was against Kelvin Banks, it was not a fun ball game.
Yeah.
It was not a fun ball game for him. I just highlighted one. Yeah, I just highlighted one game on Twitter where one play on Twitter where he won off the point of attack in the run game and completely displaced Braylon Trice and just bullied him downfield a little bit, man. It was a big win in the run game. And then Jadon Blue, who we'll talk about this summer as well, the running back, he made a nice cut and created a big play. And I think that you see that consistently in the run game. He both has the power to great point of attack, to great movement at the point of attack, but also foot quickness and angles to be able to cut off from the backside, which is big time. In pass protection, he's just long and athletic, man. Like that's what he is right now. He can gain extension in the pass game. We'll talk about this in the negatives, but he's a little bit slow to react sometimes to secondary rushes. So he gets himself into kind of recovery mode a lot. But one thing that he has is he is able to recover. He can move. And there was a play against Washington specifically where number 15, the defensive end, tried to spin move and he's super kind of relaxed with them, but he does end up getting the outside track. But then Kelvin Banks is just able to wash him out and be able to work him past the track because he has good recovery quickness overall. So every requisite foot quickness, explosiveness, power, and length, he has all the tools in the toolbox. It's just next step about refining those tools.
Yeah, it's kind of weird talking about a guy like this who's played as many snaps as he has as being raw. Like you would think that he'd be like Will Campbell where everything would have come together. Now he's still a true junior coming into this year. So the expectation for him to be a perfectly well-rounded prospect doesn't need to be there. What stood out to me weakness-wise, which kind of held me away from giving him a guaranteed first-round grade, just erratic hand placement. His technique is all over the place, sometimes in the run game, but especially in pass protection. He's able to continuously win because of the length, the power in his lower half, the athleticism that he plays the position with. But God, he does not really fire his hands in consistent locations. It is all over the place. So if he's able to work that into a more of a confined, natural flow of playing left tackle, he's going to be a really good player in this class that we're going to be talking about very highly as maybe even a potential top 15 pick. But for me right now, for those reasons, Ryan, I have him graded as a top 50 who I see early second, late first.
Okay. Well, Joe, I said this already. The weaknesses column is the same as the offense as the positives column. He relies on his athleticism and his length right now, which means in retroactively, he doesn't really have great technique right now. He doesn't. You know what the problem is? I wish he would have went to the SEC. I wish he would have went to the SEC where guys can challenge him more. In the Big 12, I just think he wins. He just wins reps because he's just better than everyone across from him for the most part. And I don't think that helps him. I think that his technique is a little lazy because he hasn't had to hone technique too much. He's just been able to win off of being all the God-given ability he has. But he has a lot of it. And if you followed me over the years, you know that I value that physical skill set at offensive tackle a lot because that's what translates to the next level. It just does, man. I can teach a kid to use better hands, to be better with his feet consistently, but I can't teach length. I can't teach explosiveness. I can't teach bend. I can't teach the flexibility that a guy like Kelvin Banks has. I think he has all the requisites to being a plus starter in the NFL, which is why I gave him a early 2, just like I gave Will, but I did give him a higher grade than Will. He edged out Will for me. I do prefer, as of today, Kelvin Banks over Will Campbell. That could very much change.
That is surprising. That is very surprising.
I
Kelvin's not necessarily your type.
You don't think
Kelvin's
so?
not really your type. No, because Kelvin's more my type. I feel like he's a little more reminiscent of the J.C. Latham big ass maul you into the ground type of a guy.
No, J.C. Latham was fat. We're not talking about a fat guy here. We're just talking about a svelte young man that has a big butt. He's 324 pounds. He's 324. That's not 360 like your boy, but
he was 330 at the combine. Watch
Yeah.
him. He's going to be the same exact weight at the combine.
I think he was 340 something, but regardless, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Okay. I like Kelvin Banks. I think that he has all the requisite athleticism and upside to be in a first round NFL draft pick. Again, in a vacuum, high second round grade, very high second round grade, about as high of a second round grade as you can get without being a borderline first. So he is a 1-2, like late 1, early 2 conversation for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would be willing to bet on his athleticism and his traits a little bit more than Will. Now, I wish that we could just merge them together. Give Will.
He'd be a perfect prospect.
Give Kelvin Banks Will Campbell's technique and patience. Give him all that, because then we're talking about a top 10 NFL draft prospect. But unfortunately, generational. But unfortunately, he's not there right now. Right? He's not there right now. But I think would be willing to bet on that athleticism, that overall upside. I think that he has the goods. It's just about harnessing the goods and actualizing them into physical talent.
Well, that's our full breakdown on Kelvin Banks, Will Campbell. Folks, thanks for tuning in at Joe DeLeone at Rise and Draft. Hit the subscribe button. Give us a 5-star review. We'll talk to you later. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.